There's this huge trend I've been seeing lately of people ditching their streaming music services in favor of going back to iPods and MP3 players for a more simple and personal music experience. There are a ton of great reasons to do this, such as being able to own and listen to higher quality versions of your favorite music, freeing yourself from the algorithms and promotional playlists that streaming music services aggressively push onto users, and creating a music experience that is completely separate from the attention-sucking nature of our phones. I haven't really considered getting on board with this trend until I recently got a hold of this really cool Zune HD. And I wanted to talk about my experience using this and go into a little bit more depth about how it works because I think it is such an underrated music device. Most people I've seen have been going through and resurrecting old iPods to build their music collections, but I thought it would be fun to try something that was a little bit lesser known. I'm an avid believer of a symbiosis between having a physical music collection and having streaming music services. And I wanted to see exactly how I liked having a more offline experience. This is truly the year of pop music releases, and I've been living through so many of these great albums throughout this year. However, before I even consider going out and buying a physical version of an album of an artist that I love, the first thing I do is reach for my handy dandy streaming music service to give it a listen. And for me, that's the biggest strength a streaming music subscription can offer: instant access to any brand new music by my favorite artists. And basically a month of subscription is the same cost as a single CD. Right now the price is just over $13, which I wouldn't even say is that expensive for infinite music. So why are so many people trading this extreme convenience of being able to listen to whatever they want, whenever they want, for something so extremely limited? Well, for one, it's honestly kind of nice to have such limitations sometimes. Limiting yourself to a selection of your favorite music by your favorite artists can honestly help you develop a better relationship with the art. While everybody enjoys music in their own ways, one of my favorite ways to experience a new album is to sit down somewhere cozy, let the music and sounds envelop me during the duration of the project, and just lose myself in the art. Which is why I'm so involved in having a physical media collection of CDs and a few vinyl records, because I can just put those albums on and completely focus in on the album for the duration that it plays. There's no distractions, there's no new songs being added in, it's just the music that I want to hear. And I think that's what the big movement is going towards for everybody using these iPods, is they just get to put on an album and fully listen to it without getting on their phone and getting distracted and skipping a song that they don't like, or a random song from a random playlist automatically playing into a new song that's been payola to death. While I no longer have a car that can play CDs, I have been leaning a little bit further into using Spotify on CarPlay, because I'm sorry, CarPlay is really nice. And AirPods are the most convenient headphones I've ever used in my life, and those just don't work with old iPods. So let me tell you, it was a little bit rough to get used to this little media player because you have to use physical wired headphones, and there's a proprietary connector on the bottom, which whenever I plug it into my car just reads as an MP3 player, which didn't make a super inconvenient experience, but it definitely wasn't as nice as what I was already getting used to with CarPlay. However, I can really say that using this is honestly such a fun experience compared to using, Spotify, which UI hasn't changed pretty much at all, and the Apple Music user interface is awful. Sorry, don't come for me. The Zune HD was an incredibly unique, thoughtfully designed, dedicated music player, developed and released by Microsoft in 2009. It honestly is packed with tech that people take for granted today over 10 years later, and I can honestly say that this product heavily influenced the landscape for UI design in the handheld world for years to come. They were way ahead of the time with this thing. So the screen of this, a 480 by 272 pixel OLED touchscreen, still looks pretty great to this day, even considering its lower resolution. OLED in a device released in 2009 is pretty rare for the time. This is really cool to see, and the UI really stands out on this display. Colors are vivid and pop with the dark UI, which again was very ahead of its time, and it has very big, beautiful type treatments that stand out great against the perfect blacks of this design. One weakness of early OLEDs for the time was brightness, and you can definitely tell that this is kind of a dim display. Storage sizes for the Zune were 16, 32, and eventually 64 gigs, and it started at $220 at that 16 gig, which was a very competitive price compared to the 8 gig iPod Touches of the time. In a time where downloading apps expanded the capabilities of the devices you had, this fell behind so quickly. Having so much storage on an iPod meant that you had more storage to download apps, which this pretty much didn't have. I think just the price alone set this up though for an immediate failure, because people who were already invested in the Apple and iPod ecosystem couldn't justify paying such a high price to try something that may or may not be something that they like using. I want to be able to put some of my music onto this device. Being the capacity of 16 gigabytes, it should be able to hold a decent amount of my personal library. The music I own is mostly on CDs, so I'm gonna find a way to rip these to my computer and sync them over onto this Zune. I found an Apple SuperDrive that I figured I could use to do this, and ripped a few of my CDs to my Mac into my library in the AAC format. From there, I was able to find a third-party Zune sync app that I used to import the music directly from that into the Zune from my Mac, since I don't have the Windows operating system requirements to run the official Zune app. And I was able to easily put all my new music onto there. Not bad for a free app that I found built by enthusiasts. In order to get the full Zune experience, you had to have a Windows computer with the Zune app installed on it. And the Zune Sync app actually did some pretty neat things for the time. It automatically imported artist data and images that displays on the artist pages on the device whenever you play music, and it adds another layer of imagery to the UI. It honestly looks pretty cool, and I wish I'd known that I wouldn't be able to get that experience whenever I took the old music off of this Zune, but I'm glad I was at least able to see it in action before doing so. It really adds a nice additional layer of depth to the user interface, and it looks so good, honestly. I have to note how easy they made it to unscrew the back panel to be able to access all of the components inside. It's really nice that they included this. Not very many devices, even of this era, were very repairable. It's always nice to see a company that makes a device that has repairability in mind. So overall, I had a great experience using this as a dedicated audio player. However, I just couldn't see myself using this for just the novelty of having an offline music experience. Being able to give this device a second life and being able to load it up with a bunch of my modern music was a really cool experience, but I did learn a lot about how I could listen to music in a separate way from my iPhone, and I can't say that I didn't take it for granted, but it was a lot of fun to just find an album that I like that I put onto here and just push play and go wherever I needed to go. I could leave my phone behind and not have any worry about being distracted or anything. For the time being, I'm still going to listen to music primarily through streaming or buying my favorite artists' CDs, physical versions of releases when I get the chance, and supporting them that way. Because honestly, listening to music from streaming, although is not the best quality at all times, I still get a better experience being able to listen to something anywhere I go, downloading a playlist before I ride on a plane somewhere, or if I go onto a road trip where cell phone service isn't available. It's so much faster to be able to do that than it would be for me to rip a CD to my computer, plug this in, load it up, which takes, it's not instant. I can definitely see the appeal of this, but I still think I'm going to stick with streaming. Really enjoyed being able to learn and experience what everybody is going for when they're switching to iPods and MP3 players again. If you've used a Zune before, let me know what your experience is. I always love reading the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. I love digging out old pieces of tech and seeing how they hold up to this day, and this has been a really fun device to learn about and experience. Thanks for watching.